Let's play cards. Gwent wouldn't be bad.
What's up, grey boys and girls? Deka here with yet another Gwent tutorial video. Today I shall attempt to shower you with knowledge on the deck builder, how to navigate it, the various utilizable features within it, all that user-friendly stuff. Now, without wanting to burn any bridges, let's get straight into it. Now, to start off, in order to access the deck builder, you'll need to click on its respective tile right here, which will take you to this screen. Here, you will notice the left section where you'll have the button to create a new deck, while the decks that are already crafted will appear below it. Next, we have the middle section where you'll have the search bar, which you can use to search for cards using their names, categories, etc. etc. Below the bar, we have the familiar provision cost icon, which I briefly mentioned in my Understanding the Cards Themselves video. The link to said video should be appearing on screen right about now. The same link will be present in the description below. Alongside the bread and bottle icon, we have the provision costs separated into groups which act as filters to use when displaying cards. I'll talk about the provision costs later on in the video. Next to the provision costs, you'll observe this button that resets all filters applied to the display of cards. Below all this, you'll have the actual display of cards, and finally, in the right section, you'll have even more filters that you can apply to the display. Now, some of these filters I covered in the cards video, while others are self-explanatory. I will, however, cover the two filters that do need some explaining, but did not get sufficient mention in the previous video. These filters are the crafting costs and card type filters. So let us begin with the crafting cost. This is the cost of creating a card and is connected to the rarity of that card. You will find yourself paying in scraps for standard cards and in both scraps and meteorite powder for premium cards. That seems to be it for the crafting cost, so let us move on to the card type. Now, as you can see, there are 4 types of cards in Gwent. We have the unit card, which always has a power, the special card denoted by this fiery symbol, the artifact card carrying this cap symbol, and finally the stratagem which bears the banner symbol. I will talk about these types of cards and how they are different from each other in a future video where I will discuss gameplay. Now let us move on to the meat of the matter, which is the process of building your deck. Now, before we move on, let me mention that you shall not need to build any deck when you boot up the game for the first time, as you will find yourself in possession of several starter decks. My personal advice to you is to play several matches with each deck so that you gain greater understanding of the game before you start modifying the decks or creating new ones. With that out of the way, let us now scrutinize the process of creating a new deck. When you click on the new deck button, you'll be immediately taken to this screen, which has 3 sections. The left section contains 6 of the 7 factions currently available in the game, with the 7th one being the neutrals. But why aren't the neutrals included? Well, to answer that question, I need you to understand that factions are groupings of cards based on the card species and affiliations. Neutrals do not have any affiliations and can therefore be used in any faction, which is why the neutral faction isn't included here. This also means that you will be right in concluding that cards belonging to one faction cannot be included in a deck built using cards from a different faction, with the exception being neutral cards, of course. Now, when you pick a faction like this monsters one right here, the middle and right sections are going to spring to life with some text. Now, the middle section's text will be in the form of buttons, which are, in actual fact, leader abilities. I will expound these abilities in future when discussing gameplay, so for now, all I need you to observe is that each faction has 7 leader abilities. You will notice that these buttons also have these symbols in them. These symbols should not inspire anxiety within you, as they only serve to denote the abilities. You will also be in a position to observe the numbers also included in the buttons. These are the provision costs of the respective abilities, which I will go into later on in the video. Finally, careful surveillance of this section will reveal that the abilities are split into 2 groups, basic and advanced. This means that the abilities in the advanced group require slightly deeper understanding of the game to master compared to their basic counterparts. Let me emphasize on the word slightly in my previous statement, so don't let the advanced label keep you from experimenting with these abilities, even though you might not have pro-level understanding of the game. Next, the right section's text serves the purpose of conveying a little bit of lore concerning the faction you've selected. This, however, changes immediately you select a leader ability, and will instead describe the selected ability's functionality and even suggest a few cards to use in a deck with said ability. Now let us select an ability like this Force of Nature here and proceed to build a deck by clicking on this button right here. This will take you to the familiar deck builder screen. Only this time, it's going to have these numbers at the top left corner right here. But what do these numbers mean? Well, to start off, the first number represents the total number of cards present in your deck. As you can most probably decipher, this is, at its current state, informing us that we need a minimum of 25 cards for this deck to be viable for play. It, however, changes when we start adding cards. Now, those of you with Schofield level IQ will realize that the counter does not count this card right here. That is because it is a stratagem. I will discuss what that means in my gameplay video, but for now all you need to know is that 1. Stratagems don't count as cards, and 2. You can only have 1 stratagem per deck. Next, this other number here indicates the tally of unit cards present in your deck. Remember, as earlier mentioned, unit cards are cards with a power number. As displayed, you must have a minimum of 13 unit cards before you can start inflicting pain in matches. Again, it starts tallying when you start adding cards. The last number is what we like to call the provision cost maxima. Unlike the other 2 numerals, this one will count down instead of up. This is because it is the maximum number of provisions you can spend on your deck. Now, every deck has a base provision cost maximum of 150. However, going back to the faction selection screen, you will notice that different leader abilities have different provision costs. It is a fantastic thing to realize that these costs actually add to your base maximum instead of subtracting from it. You will therefore instantly deduce that the stronger an ability is, the lesser the amount of provisions it will add to the base provision. Let us now go back to the card adding screen. It will be now most apparent that this base plus ability provision maximum will be the overarching governor when it comes to the composition of your deck, since every card has provision cost, which subtracts from the deck's maximum. This is why the stronger a card is, the bigger its provision cost. Next, let me point out that you can add cards to your deck by either dragging them over or by simply clicking on them. Right-clicking on a card, however, displays its details, a topic I covered in my last piece. Now, as you add the cards, they will be displayed in the order they appear on the deck builder, which is in descending provision cost order. Next, you will notice that the cards in your deck are not displayed in their full glory for obvious reasons. It is, however, still astoundingly easy to identify them. First and foremost, the cards maintain their gold and bronze border colors. Secondly, the card's power will be the first thing to be displayed from the left. Now, in the event that the card in question is not a unit card, then this star will stand in place of where the power usually is. After the power/star, you will be able to see the provision cost of the card, after which will be the card's name, and finally, the artwork. Now, you can only have one copy of each gold card in your deck. However, the same is not true for their bronze counterparts, as you can have 2 copies of each bronze card if you so wish. In such a scenario, there will be this additional ×2 text added at the end. Next, let me bring to your attention that premium cards will always have a glittering border. Next, let me mention that you can change the name of your deck, which happens to appear up here, by clicking on its leader ability. Doing so will also allow you to change the leader ability itself. Also, if at all during your vigorous studying of the cards you happen to forget what your selected ability does, then right-clicking on it should be able to settle your conundrum. Finally, let me take you back to the main deck builder screen. Here, you will realize that right-clicking on a deck will also allow you to rename it, change its leader ability, share it via Gwent's website, duplicate it for minor tweaks, and lastly, delete it. Allow me to conclude the video at that, folks. Accept my sincere gratitude for lending me your time. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments concerning the game or my videos, feel free to post them in the comments below. Otherwise, I have been your host, Deka, and until next time, always remember to stay safe and healthy.